Hello everyone, this video should be relatively short. Happy Sunday. In today's video, we're going to take a look at what levels essentially need to remain for a continued move to the upside. What we saw obviously on Friday was the market rip to the upside, but a lot of tech stocks are not showing as much strength. So we're going to take a look at how much more strength in the IWM, because the IWM is the main reason, in the main indice that really bounced aggressively. As you can see, the Russell is up almost 4%. The S&P and the NASDAQ are up only 1.5%. So the overall market really skyrocketed due to the Russell. So we're going to take a look at what levels essentially need to hold for a continued move to the upside. We're going to take a look at the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell, the large tech stocks, the VIX, and crypto. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. So we pumped. This is a daily time frame of the S&P 500 futures. We ripped right back to the trend line level of resistance and basically closed right below it. So for a continued move to the upside, what you can do is essentially look at the fib levels of this candle in and of itself. And what generally you want to see for a continued move to the upside is the 23.6 or the 38.2% fibs holding as support for a continued move to the upside. That will be the most bullish case for bulls. Okay, so purely this is really it. This is exactly the levels that need to hold for a continued move to the upside. Don't overthink it. All right, so this is the daily time frame of the IWM. The IWM got the most love. It was the most bullish indice by far across the board. The NASDAQ was up 1.5%. The S&P 500 was up 1.5%. The Russell up almost 4%. So as you can see, relative to the SPY and the NASDAQ, the Russell is skyrocketing. So it just so happened to retest a very important fib level. So what I did was a couple days ago, remember when we created this fib level from the most recent highs to the most recent lows, this was a very major level of support, right? So what we were doing a couple of days ago was we were looking at this level of support needed to hold on the IWM, right? And as you can see, obviously we broke down lower and then we reclaimed this level of support, which was the prior lows. So what's interesting here is that the IWM closed at the fib extension level to the upside, the 1.618 fib extension to the upside. And it closed right below it. So what we just saw on the S&P 500 was we closed right below a major level of resistance, and the IWM also closed right below a major level of resistance. This is not an automatic bearish sign, but what's going on is, once again, to really see a continued move to the upside, what you want to see is these two levels hold. Sorry, you want to see the make a fib level from the lows to the highs, and you want to see the 23.6% fib or the 38.2% fib holding as a level of support for a continued move to the upside. Very simple. If those levels hold, then we are going to continue to see strength in the IWM, and the market in general should continue to bounce. What I do think should end up happening is this strength in the IWM alone is not going to propel the market up. We need to start seeing some strength out of the tech stocks. So what we can now do is we're going to look at the large tech stocks as a whole, go down the list of all of them one by one, and essentially see how much more room there is to the upside on them, whether they're bullish or bearish. And then we're going to take a look at the NASDAQ. All right. One by one, let's take a look at Apple. In general, guys, I'm going to repeat this. In the next 6 to 12 months, every dip that we get is a buying opportunity. Every single dip that we get in the next 6 to 12 months is a buying opportunity. Okay? I just want to make that very clear. So Apple, I'm talking about across the board, across every stock, across the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Russell. Large tech stocks. Every dip that we get is a buying opportunity. Okay. So Apple, we reclaimed the 227 level. We have major resistance at 230. This is obviously trying to bottom itself out. Apple only was up a 1.3%. Nothing crazy, but this is clearly trying to show some strength. We held 225. 230 is the next major level of resistance for Apple. There is some room to the upside, clearly. Next, Amazon. Amazon held 220, right? It held the 220 level. That was a very, very major level of support here. This red line, basically, if we drop below it, we would be bearish below. This green line that we're approaching now is 230 on Amazon. Another major level of resistance. If we can break above 230, things become bullish on Amazon. And clearly, this was a very nice bounce. Amazon is up 3% for the day. I was very, very bullish and adamant to be bullish on Amazon. One of the best setups. And overall, a great stock because also Amazon got a lot of love primarily because it's also economically sensitive. It's not just a tech stock. It is also a consumer-related stock as well, which is why as the IWM started to bounce, Amazon also started to bounce because people buy things on Amazon. It's not just and based on how strong the economy is, people have extra money to spend. And if they have extra money to spend, they're going to buy things on Amazon. So if the Fed was dovish and he wanted to lower interest rates and he wanted to basically say things that would be beneficial to lowering interest rates, that is why the Russell 2000 skyrocketed. And that is another reason why Amazon did very, very well. So Amazon in general, very decent stock. Anything above 230 on Amazon, strong in my opinion. So I'm going to be honest, NVIDIA, I don't really know what is going on with NVIDIA. It's just not looking that... I mean, so essentially we need a break above 180, okay? Comfortable. If we get a break above 180 on NVIDIA, spectacular. We could end up getting a bounce. Great. And it could continue making new highs. I just don't really see how this is a really, really bullish setup. Obviously, you know, we saw a major bounce. Great. Obviously, spectacular. Just being fair here, it needs to break above 180 for a continued move to the upside. AMD as well. It's not the most bullish, right? So they're trying to show some strength on the lows. Fair, right? AMD essentially needs to break above 172. These are the levels, okay? So AMD needs to break above 172. NVIDIA needs to break above 180. They're trying to bottom themselves out. Fair, okay? This is essentially a lot of these tech stocks are trying to bottom themselves out. And with that being said, money can flow out of the Russell and into these losing stocks so that the overall market can rise in waves. So essentially that's what's going on. Netflix, you can see, didn't do anything really, which is very, very interesting. Didn't do too hot. It's just didn't get much strength. Okay, so we got the major sell-off after we touched the 50% fib, holding the 22.6% fib and the 20 exponential moving average. Not really much to look at on Netflix here. Microsoft, showing a bottom. Not as much strength, right? Not a lot of weakness, but it's trying to show a bit of a bottom here. 505 is holding. We have resistance at 515. Things are technically at support on Microsoft. Can't really do much about this. This is not extreme strength, but, we're holding support. Google, though, showing some strength. We're showing some strength on Google. Made a new high, and it held 205, broke a new high. Okay, but we didn't close above the most recent highs. But in general, this is bullish on Google. Google is up 3% for the day. Did very, very well. And as long as it can hold above 204, 203, then Google can continue to rise. And we should see 216 to 220 soon on Google, in my opinion. But these are the levels that need to hold. If Google starts to break below 200, this can really, really capitulate lower. I don't think that's going to end up happening because there would need to be some sort of real clear bearishness in the overall market. But 216, 218 is on the table on Google in the very short term, in my opinion. So a similar reason why Tesla bounced is another reason why Amazon bounced, is because Tesla is essentially not just it doesn't just bounce based off of what Elon Musk and the social currency that Elon Musk has. When people have extra money to spend, Tesla is also an economically sensitive stock. So it also does well when the IWM or the Russell 2000 does well. When people have extra money to spend, they're going to spend it on cars or subscriptions to Tesla, their car subscription for extra features, etc. So that's why Tesla was also a really big winner. It was up 6% today. This was a major bounce and broke above 335. We closed right at 340, literally 1 cent away from 340. This is very, very algorithmic. But yeah, essentially anything above 343, Tesla should really, really bounce very aggressively, in my opinion. Meta, right? Everything is trying to bottom itself out. This is a very, very tight level of support on a lot of these tech stocks, holding support, trying to bounce. Okay, so Meta has major resistance here at 765, 768 area as well. Bouncing off of support. There's room to the upside for all of these large tech stocks. So it's interesting. Obviously, they're showing bullishness, but the chips are just weird to me. It's just weird. It's not really as strong as things should be, but I mean, that's the ebbs and flows of the overall market. Can't expect things to just be everything to be completely bullish all at once. And then last but not least, we have to take a look at the VIX. The VIX is very, very important because it has an inverse relationship to the market. If the VIX is bouncing, the overall market should be falling. As you can see, the VIX had a massive, massive drop, 15% down day. We came back right to a major level of support here. $14 is a very, very major level of support. But clearly, as you can see, the momentum on the VIX is bearish. So even if we were to bounce, this is still bearish momentum on the VIX. But again, we're at a level of support. So it's going to be interesting to see how much lower the VIX can go, and in turn, how much higher the overall market can go, because things move oppositely to the VIX and the overall market. With that being said, there is still more room to go on the tech stocks. We held the 50% fib from the most recent highs to the most recent lows, etc., right? This is clearly not, a major bearish, this is not completely bearish. There's a lot of room to the upside on these tech stocks as well. We held the 50% fib, right? But once again, we closed right at the 38.2% fib. So it's interesting. The IWM, the SPY, and the NASDAQ literally closed exactly at a very, very major level of resistance. Now, is this an automatic reason to be bearish? Absolutely not. There's still a lot more bullish room to go in the market. And just to really, really simplify things, we could take a look at the SPY and the NASDAQ, the SPY and the QQQ. The levels that need to hold on the SPY for continued move upside is going to be essentially 641, 642. Okay, so 641, 642 can hold. We'll see a continued move to the upside on the SPY on Monday. And if on the QQQ we hold 568, 569 area, that's going to be a bullish move in general as well on the QQQ, because that would essentially be a hold of the 50 to the 38.2% fib of this candle. Very, very simple. Obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are also doing very well. And clearly, Ethereum made a new high. Solana is bouncing very, very aggressively. Bitcoin is also going to be pulled up by Ethereum and Solana. In general, crypto is doing well. So crypto does well when the IWM does well, because it's economically sensitive. Crypto is being heavily influenced by a lot of the bank stocks, and a lot of hedge funds and banks are essentially involved in crypto. If we're getting low interest rates potentially in the market, that's going to affect crypto in a bullish way. So that's why a lot of money is going to be flowing into the lower cap, higher potential rewards in crypto compared to just Bitcoin bouncing. So there's a lot more room to the upside on Solana and Ethereum compared to Bitcoin. So that's why a lot of these are bouncing very aggressively. So with that being said, that's really it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Have a good one.